Because the topic is Jihad and Terrorism, an Islamic perspective. Let us see now what do we understand by the word terrorism. It is very hard to define the word terrorism because the definitions, it also keeps on changing because of the circumstances, the geographical locations, the background behind the word, and the other aspects that linked with the meaning of the word terrorist. But we come to know from the Oxford Dictionary that terrorism means that the use of violent actions against the government to achieve some political goal or to force the government to act on their decisions. That is what the meaning of the word terrorism according to the Oxford Dictionary. And this word first, terrorism, was first time coined during the time of French Revolution. During that time, Maximilien Robespierre, he was the head of the government. And in the year 1790s, it was the time during the French Revolution. And Maximilien Robespierre, from the historical record, we come to know that he has captured more than 500,000 people. Out of 500,000 people, he has put to death 40,000 people. He has executed. More than 200,000 people were being tortured and starved to death in the prison. And the rest 200,000 people, to many than 200,000 people, he has guillotined. And historically, this was called the year 1793 and 1794, the reigns of terror, the years of terror. So first time in history, the word terrorism was first coined to describe these people of the French regime. Unfortunately today, the same word terrorism is used to describe some of the fanatic Muslims. Now we see what does terrorism stands for and what does the topic stands for. Islam means peace, it promotes justice. Jihad meaning to strive, to struggle, and terrorism means to use violent actions against a government to act on the decisions. That is what does the topic stands for. Now let us see what does the Islamic perspective about this view. More or less we come to know that in the world today we have approximately 1.3 to 1.5 billion Muslims. As a whole, more than 20% of the world population are Muslims. In Sweden, we have around 350,000 to 500,000 Muslims. So about 500,000 Muslims in the local community. But in the world today, we have approximately 1.3 to 1.5 billion Muslims in the world, which is 20% of the world population to some many. And at the same time, we find that there are this religion in Islam, though it has a vast majority, yet there are also vast majority of the number of misconceptions about this religion of Islam. The majority of the misconception in the world today, you will find, is about Islam. There are many types of misconceptions about Islam, some of them which I will highlight, but one of the major misinformations and the maximum misconception is about the concept of jihad. And fortunately or unfortunately, this is also a fact of the present time that Islam is the fastest growing religion in the world. And this is surprising that though some people they claimed that Islam is a religion of terrorism, yet we find in the international media that in America the fastest growing religion is Islam. In Europe, we also find that the fastest growing religion in Europe is Islam. And in the world today, according to their statistics, which comes in the Plain Truth magazine in 1986, and also in the Reader's Digest Almanac in the Yearly magazine in 1986, that Islam is the fastest growing religion in the world, which increased by 235%. during the time of 1934 to 1984, during these 50 years. And at the time today, according to the international media, after 9/11 in 2001, in America alone, more than 20,000 Americans, they accepted Islam. And according to the statistics of Europe, more than 34,000 Europeans, they have accepted Islam. So Islam is the fastest growing religion in the world today. Yet there are misconceptions, as I have told you, and the reasons behind all these misconceptions is the powerful international media. The media we find today, they are propounding violence propaganda against this religion of peace. Every day, or more or less in a week, we come to see the things that is not in Islam. The media is presenting their bad views that this is supposed to be the exemplary Muslims, and this is what Islam stands for. And the most common misconception, as I told you earlier, is about the concept of jihad. We see, what does the concept of jihad stands for? As I defined, strive and struggle. But now, due to the media's impact, what they have able to prove and change the views in the minds of the people, that whenever you see there is a Muslim and who is supposed to say that I am a Muslim, like me identifying being as a cap or having a beard, trousers above the ankle, you start thinking that, look, he is a fundamentalist Muslim, he is supposed to be an extremist, and he is supposed to be a terrorist. Whenever some people sees a Muslim sister wearing niqab and following the guidelines, on the divine guidelines of the Creator, people refer to them as an extremist, as a fundamentalist. Now let us see what does this word fundamentalist stands for. Because we must know and define what are the title we are giving and what does the title stands for. Fundamentalist, by definition, fundamentalist means a person who follows the fundamentals of a particular subject. For example, to be a good doctor, one person has to know the fundamental of medicine, and he or she have to practice the fundamental of medicine. Unless he is a fundamentalist in the field of medicine and he practices fundamentals of medicine, he cannot be a good doctor. Like a mathematician, if he don't know or she don't know the fundamentals of mathematics, and if he or she not practice the fundamental of maths, he or she cannot become a good mathematician. If we have like an engineer, like I am an engineer, to be an engineer we have to know the fundamentals of engine. And we must practice the fundamentals of engines. Unless we know and practice that, we cannot be a good fundamentalist or a good engineer. So we as an individuals or the international media should not paint all fundamentalists with the same brush. Which happening in the world media today, they always paint all the Muslims with the same brush. They all identified the Muslims as to be a black sheep in the community. That is not supposed to be done by the international media. So we must not, as an individual, should paint all fundamentalists as the same level. For example, if we have a fundamentalist doctor in the community whose profession is to save human life, and he is a fundamentalist, and this kind of fundamentalist is good for the society. In the other side, if we have a fundamentalist robber whose profession is used to rob, we know that this fundamentalism is bad for the society. We cannot paint all these fundamentalists with the same brush, that all are good or all are bad, depending upon the circumstances.